Baba really, yeah, okay. So in the second lecture, Baba really started taking this on to the domain of astronomy. But you can see how all of this is connected with light and darkness and straight and round and light globes and shadows and reflections. And he's beginning to explain how the principle of the light globe producing a sun in a world. And he's introduced the idea of the three worlds having seven suns. I was just very quickly going over what we just read tonight.
Very good. Okay, well, Lindsay has her hand up. Wait a second. Let me allow you guys to unmute. 1 second. I forgot. Okay, go ahead and unmute, Lindsay.
I did. Hi.
Lindsay.
Yeah. I guess I first want to make a comment about the two eyes going through the mind into the creator point and then Brahma behind. That image with the tariqat in between is just so beautiful. And, you know, I'm also thinking of the chapter in God Speaks, the Seven Veils.
Yeah.
And, you know, just all of that is really very moving. I do have two questions. And the first is, Ward, you said the light globes are not in the gross world. That makes sense to me. But do you have a sense of where they are in this cosmology, in this physicality, or whatever you want to call it?
I know, I've wondered that too, but I really don't. And when I say that they're not in the gross sphere, you see, Baba isn't really telling that to these kids, but this material did get replicated in the Mayor Message and in Ramju Abdullah's Sri Mayor Baba Philosophy Teachings, and in another version done by Ghani. And some of the statements there, in fact, you actually get it here. Baba said, when you enter into the edge of this beginning of the tariqat, this is way back in that lecture where he talked about that, these light globes become visible to you. And then Baba says, astronomers who have the vast sums of money on their huge telescopes can't see them, but the simple seeker who enters into the tariqat can. So that seems to me clearly to indicate that these are of the inner world, subtle or mental.
Yeah.
But where they are there, I don't know. I'd like to know.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And I also have a curiosity, which is I'm wondering if the light globes are like waves. You know, waves are to motion as light globes are to light.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Baba makes that explicit. Yeah. So these systems of metaphors, but you know, systems of metaphors, but they're more real than just metaphors, right?
Yes.
Because this actually produces the physical sun.
Yeah.
But that's totally right. The wave is a light globe.
Okay, and then my second question is, in the second chapter that we read today, it says there are three worlds in the first world, and then it goes on to discuss the first world, the second world, and the third world, as though they are three planets that can replace each other. So I'm wondering what is he referring to when he says there are three worlds within the first world?
He made allusion to this earlier, but he's going to come back to it. This is the octopus. See the octopus here?
Yeah.
And
so if
he taught 7 ranges of planets.
Yes.
And A, B, and C are in the 7th, but they're all 3 parts of a single world, actually.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, and I just want to note, it's interesting, there must be some sort of a characteristic of, I don't know, worlds casting images into Pokal and then the light coming back. there's a doubling of suns, and each of the doublings results in a smaller set of forms. And
Yeah.
it's interesting in terms of how the mind works to feel that.
So when we get to this, he's going to stay on this topic for a while. So this figure upcoming is going to show that. He shows how the light globe, the very process by which it creates 7 suns. And he demonstrated this. This will be in the next session also, by using a lantern and mirrors. And he placed them in front of the boys. I think he had them file up in front so they could see how multiple reflections were being created by a single so the lantern is a figure for the light globe, right? And these reflections would be for the suns. Yeah. So we're going to get more on this.
Okay.
Okay, Jack Burke, you're next.
One quick thing and something else. I remember reading or someone talking with someone way back in the 70s where Baba said when someone asked him where the own point was, and his response was on a windowsill in Delhi. I mean, I just thought I'd bring that in as a part of the conversation. But
I've heard that kind of thing too. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't know, it could be. About 30 years ago, I got a call from someone who invited me over to discuss with that person who have been deeply involved in Pasni Maharaj's work and experienced something comparable to what we've talked about this day. And it turned out that in trying to describe what this person felt, we came up with what we called illumined darkness, which somewhat akin to that is an everyday experience. If you shut out all the light from your eyes, you will see light at the same time that you see darkness. So I thought I'd bring that up as a possible explanation to in a very simple way for what we've been reading about. That's all.
Well, Baba is saying here that the subtle, and by subtle, he really means the entire inner world, right? The whole 6 planes. He's not differentiating between subtle and mental yet, but the subtle is dark. And like the dark night of the soul, you enter into, this is big in Christian mysticism, the cloud of unknowing, you enter into darkness. And to me, this dovetails perfectly with In God's Hand, for those of you who have read it or remember it, where he talks about the natural light, the natural darkness, the unnatural darkness, and the unnatural light. This physical universe that we see is the unnatural light. And when you enter into the spiritual path, you're entering into the realm of the unnatural darkness. And that kind of does make sense to me when I think about sort of prayer or meditation or plunging into the inner worlds. It's kind of going into a darkness, and as I imaginatively construct it. So that fits right in with this. The white is the gross, the black is the subtle, and the point is it's a point along that line. Remember the line? It's the own point is like the most finite everything. That's one of the terms Baba uses for it. It's most finite, but it contains the everything in it. I mean, this is really kind of amazing stuff, I think.
Could be the source of bewilderment as well.
It is, I know. And you know how good bewilderment is, according to Al-Ghazali.
Yeah. Elizabeth, you're next.
Yeah, whoops. I'm going back to that part that I read, that one line that was on 2 pages. and the last part of that line, if I recall it correctly, it's said that, where is it?
That the sun itself has nothing. Is that the one?
No, it's the one, it was on 2 pages and we had to stop. Anyway,
but
it's,
The sun itself has nothing in the next page.
Yeah.
yeah, and, okay, so my question was, why is the sun filled with the light of the light globe, which is what I think the end of that sentence says. And the second part of that, when we were discussing it, we talked about shadows, and Baba consistently talks about the shadows being larger than the object, but actually shadows can be larger or smaller depending on where the light is with respect to the object. And I'm just wondering if there's some explanation of that later. But the main question is this one: the sun itself has nothing. Where's the next page?
Of the gross in it. Yeah.
Nothing of the gross.
Yeah. So
But it is the light.
it's, yeah. So what is confusing to me is the sun is the pokal, which is the reflection of the world, and yet the light that goes into it is from the light globe. So I'm wondering if that's like Pran and Akash meeting again, like, the light being the Pran or movement clashing with the projected pokal or nothingness, so that you once again have the clash of Pran and pokal or Akash in the created world. I just have a hard time with the sun part, is it the nothingness, or is it the light, or is it the clash of the two so anyway, because it says the sun itself has nothing to do.
Yeah. It
Whatever the
has
rest of that.
nothing of the gross in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. And Pran and Akash, and they're clashing, how it relates to this. It's a very good question, and I'm not sure that I've really worked all of that out. It would seem that the light globe sounds more like the Pran.
So if you see light globe, the light falls on the image. But the world casts the image into pokal. So there's got to be Akash there, and someone just said the wave is like the light globe, and the wave is the movement that goes into the pokal, which is, so wouldn't that be consistent? If, I don't know, it's like, what is the sun made of?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to say the obvious thing, Bob is obviously not talking about anything that you're going to, that astronomical science is going to find, right? Obviously. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe we'll get to explore that some more, Elizabeth.
We can go on exploring this, because we're going to have another two lectures on this subject.
So hang
But
on.
the other thing that goes with it is the size of the shadow. Why does Baba only say the shadow is larger? Because we know shadows can be smaller.
Well, I think he's referring to that case where the shadow is bigger. I think he's just referring to that experience people would have.
So Elizabeth, I want to try to get Farishte in here because she has to leave in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. I'm done.
You done? Okay. Go ahead, Farishte.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Jai Baba, guys. This is mind-blowing, and I think it was meant to be mind-blowing. Baba knew what he was doing with the kids.
Yeah.
So that's a comment I had. And also you mentioned just now, if this doesn't explain Maya or illusion, I don't know what will. The light globe shining its shadow, throwing its shadow, and that's the world. So right there, the nothingness of our world is proof.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's no substance to the sun itself, and that's part of the illusion as well. And it's only a reflection of the shadow, the light that was received. I don't know. My mind is blown.
Yeah, no, this is
And,
mind blowing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
we
I
tend
also
to,
wanted to,
yeah, go ahead.
no, you first.
No, go ahead. Just continue. Yeah.
I just wanted to say how wonderful this is because it's reminiscent of, I don't know, what was it, 10, 15 years ago, I transcribed these notes for you, Ward.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. So you're remembering all
It's
of
been a
this,
long
huh?
time. Oh, absolutely. And my mind was
Mm.
blown then, and I decided to just bury it and not think about it. So I'm just elated to be part of this. So thank you so much. And thank you, Baba, for trying to blow our minds. Jai Baba. I have to
And
take my
Cecilia.
son to the airport.
Okay.
Jai Baba.
Jay Bob.
Isn't it interesting? Baba said that scientists will come to know this. I mean, back when he wrote this, I mean, the world of science would have said, "Are you kidding me?" But right now, it seems like it could happen. I mean, science is pretty wild and crazy too.
Well, that must have been painful for Melissa to hear, but we'll save that for another time.
This
Karen
is
Levine.
Astronomy 101 for the new humanity.
Yeah. Thank you, Fershton. Go ahead, Karen Levine.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you. That's me, Jim.
hi, Karen.
Hi. But my hand was up first.
Yes.
So I love the way she put it about the light globe throwing its shadow, because in terms of the metaphor, this has always been a little sticky point, like even as we're reading Infinite Intelligence, the metaphor of
Mm.
the shadow from the light. How do you have a shadow without an object getting in the way? Unless it's just the dimming of the light. I've been really trying to wrap my head around this idea.
Mm.
Like, what's in the way that makes the shadow happen? And the only thing I've been able to come up with has been ignorance.
Yeah.
But I don't, do you have any insight into how a light globe casts a shadow?
What a great question. Thank
That's a
you.
great question. Yeah, no, I never did quite think of that explicitly, but actually, when you asked it, the immediate thing that came to my mind was ignorance also.
Okay.
But what would be the cause of ignorance? What would be the instrument of ignorance?
Right.
It could be that there is something, and Baba just hasn't gone into it on this sort of astronomical level.
Uh-huh.
That there actually is some instrument that causes ignorance to intervene, but he just hasn't gone into it here. I mean, I would say if we were moving over into the realm of our individual experience, well, sanskaras would be the limitation of it. Some kind of a limiting principle does have to be there, though. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then what other, all the stuff that's coming out of the Webb telescope thing with
Uh-huh.
these, these images going through time, and they're getting time and space all up and active in the, in the scientific reports and stuff. Not that I'm
Uh-huh.
following them closely, but it's exciting to me that this is going to be published at the same time we're getting these images which confuse time and space, right? And
Wow.
and what occurs to me from that is that, it takes so many billions of light years for this ray of light to hit us, that it makes me think, well, maybe that is the resistance, this traveling through darkness to get to consciousness somehow, because somehow this has to relate to consciousness. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I got to throw in.
Wonderful.
It is a
insight.
kind of an amazing thing. This is coming out at exactly the same time, as you say, as all this new imagery from outer space.
Not a coincidence. It is not.
And here, Baba gave these talks 95 years ago, and
Yeah.
only now are we getting them.
Okay,
Yeah.
Jim Wilson, what do you got?
Oh, thank you.
Your turn.
I was thinking about the idea of a metaphor versus the reality, and how Baba is using metaphor, but it does seem like the metaphor does hold some of the reality.
Yeah.
So when he's talking about these various things, it's, shadow. Does shadow have a reality, really? It's just a lack of light or something, right? So it
Right.
makes me think about those natural, unnatural light and darkness Baba
Mm.
describes. And it's interesting that he says that the unnatural light is the creation, is the universe, and the unnatural darkness is the human being.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering that correctly. So that seems to be the ignorance answer that we were thinking about there. That the ignorance is the unnatural darkness.
Yeah.
Am I saying this correctly, Ward?
Well, the unnatural light would be the manifested ignorance, which we see as being real. I mean, the light is that's what we look at, whereas the darkness we don't, which is the darkness of mind, the darkness of the inner world when we turn to the mind, but it projects before us as the unnatural light. So the unnatural light, again, is the farthest from the true light, but it has a likeness to light because it's a kind of a light. Yeah. Once again, like with this, the world is a shadow of the light globe. I mean, the world is characterized by deprivation or dearth or absence. And that's been his take on the gross sphere all along. He always keeps associating the gross with Pukal or Akash or emptiness, which again is very, as we said last time, very counterintuitive. The gross seems to be solid and substantial and real, but Baba is insistently saying that it's not.
So I'm next.
Ah,
Ward, can we go back to the picture of the head, Dr. Ghani's head?
yeah. There we go. Mhm.
Yeah. So I'd always assumed that this was a top view. And the reason is that, Brahma is at the very back of the head because that is the oldest part of the brain and the origin of the brain is there. There are mystic schools that I've delved into at times that
Okay.
talk about the third eye as being corresponding to the pineal gland in the human body.
Yeah, right.
And that the pineal gland then corresponds to the point in the microcosm of the human body.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that from that point is where it emerges in duality into the depiction of the two eyes, and that the mind is that filter between the truth that is accessed through the third eye and the two gross eyes. And mind is therefore some kind of an interference pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I've always tried to remind myself of that in my meditation, that if you can quiet down that interference pattern completely, then the eyes would turn inward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it seems that he has the 7 planes ranged between the third eye and Brahma, but maybe that signifies the fact that when you turn your eyes inward, which he talks about there, we read that, then you have to start traversing that path to arrive at the Brahma. But the Brahma, I think of that as being the crown of the head, because he's had these different discourses where he associates this there with Brahma, with the 7th plane and things like that. We're going to have a very interesting discussion of this topic is called subtle physiology. And here's the figure that one there, where the different planes and the different skies or asmans are associated with different points in the body. So that's going to be coming up in a while.
The other thing, the other part of my comment was that, where it shows on the head the path,
Uh-huh.
the planes. When I see that, I always think of it as a two-way street. There's the descent and the ascent.
Mm.
So, the descent is how we get caught in illusion. And the ascent is the return path through the inner planes. And that helps you get a more complete picture of, the cycle of the whole thing. Anyway, just my comments.
Well, this figure here, actually, this one doesn't show the parallelism, but this one does. Where there's a parallel movement. Actually, it doesn't show up. But God speaks has a derivative of this, where the evolution is a descent and involution is an ascent, and they seem to correspond to each other. Yeah.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Yeah, well, I actually had two things. One, immediately responding to what you just said. And I was thinking about in God Speaks, actually it's God's descent to humankind and then his ascent to God consciousness. That's one path. That's the opposite of what you were just talking about. Anyway, that's a different subject. The one I don't understand at all in this one is how two eyes become one and that turning. I was wondering if you could re-explain it.
Yeah.
At the very beginning when we started.
Well, it's this section here. This Nirakar God, subtle form, is a man possessed of divya drishti, or divine sight. Meanwhile, creation flows out from that point, stationed at the center. Okay, so it does descend, it emanates from there. Through this point, the gross and the subtle are created. To see God, the Nirakar, Nirakar is formless, the formless transcendent God. These gross eyes must be reversed. That's what you're referring to. But this is impossible. To go to the sun is possible, but this reversing of the gross eyes is not. For even if the gross eyes should turn through we were talking about turning last time, right? Remember that? So here, the eyes have to be turned. Baba's really going to deal with this theme big time. Should turn through some unusual surgical manipulation, the point, or the 2 points of the two eyes, won't do so. And this point is precisely what needs to be changed. To turn the direction of the point. Isn't that interesting? The direction of the point. The mind has first to be reversed. And once this has been done, the mind takes the points in the two gross eyes and turns them inwards, joining them with the point of the third eye. The black and white remain and appear the same externally, but as soon as the mind turns, the 2 points turn automatically. So I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm a gross conscious soul, haven't reached the point of having turned my points, but this does really seem to be connected with the 7th chapter of God Speaks, with the sevenfold veil, where Baba talks about turning and entering in through the various openings in your face. That would seem to be connected with this to me.
When you examine the scientific way of looking at how human beings see, we actually see things that are reversed and upside down, and then they go back. Back into the brain, and they're righted. So it almost sounds like that you have to do that process. He's talking about doing that process in reverse. I mean, based on your reading it just now, that just came to my mind that we do that anyway when we see properly. You know, it's
We
upside down.
reverse it.
reversed.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's
There
a
is
mirror
yeah.
image. It's that crossed
Yeah.
image. So it sounds like what he's saying is that has to be done. That we have to reverse how we do our seeing, but it comes
Mm.
from the mind. And when the mind does it, the eyes automatically do it. I mean, but I still don't understand it. It's still very confusing and doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
That explanation of Baba's does seem to point to this diagram, because you can see how the mind, instead of the mind projecting consciousness, I mean, I think he implies this, but I mean, basically, we're all, the fundamental organ of our seeing is third eye for all of us. It's just that for those of us who are gross conscious, it gets projected outward by the mind to the two gross eyes. But you have to turn that and reverse that and come back to where the points fuse with each other. And then the spiritual path can be undertaken.
And it's interesting to me, Ward, because if you think of that in terms of that triangle representing the mind, and reversal, the mind then becomes a funnel rather than a veil, rather than a veil or interference.
Right, an outward projecting thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that'd be right. You move in towards that point.
But if you reverse it, you've got the base of the triangle next to the Om point, and then the point pointing down. And then I don't know where the eyes go after that, unless they go back up to Brahma.
I don't think the idea would be you're reversing the direction of this triangle. Rather, your movement goes up this way.
Yeah, it's a concept,
Like,
not a physical.
Yeah. And then once you fuse the 2 points of the gross eyes back in the Om point, you just are not even conscious of your gross eyes anymore. You lose gross consciousness. Now, to other people, you seem to have it, but you don't experience that. I mentioned last time, but I'll mention again that right in the middle of January of this year, Aga Ali, the central character in Sobs and Throbs, went through this episode where he began, Baba was kind of taunting him and teasing him and goading him, saying, "You don't really love me. You're, et cetera." And he got so desperate, he just began weeping uncontrollably to the point where they were afraid he was going to have a heart attack and die. And Baba finally intervened, and Baba put Baba's head on Ali's chest, and he became completely quiet. And when they tried to, this is why I'm telling this story, when they tried to open his eyes were actually turned around looking back inwards. So that seemed to happen even in a literal sense. Can that happen? Can you actually do
possible. Yes.
Yeah, when people are having epileptic fits, that happens.
Yes.
that? Okay. So that happened to him. So that seems to relate to this, doesn't it?
I think so.
But isn't that fascinating that the 2 points of your gross eye, you have to turn your mind so that they fuse into the 1 point of the third eye? It's kind of an amazing way of thinking about it.
Well, to me, I get a little bit of a disturbance when I think about, when you move from gross consciousness to subtle consciousness, your gross eyes are no longer useful. Right?
You're not conscious of them anymore.
You're not conscious of them anymore. But the third eye doesn't open until the sixth plane, right?
So you're floundering around in the darkness.
Floundering around in bewilderment.
Yeah. And it's all dark there, right?
Yeah, it's all dark.
Well, maybe it helps to correlate the fact that it's dark, because the outer gross eyes don't show you the unnatural light anymore, but you haven't gotten to where you can see the real light.
I wonder if Dr. Henry Kenmore was, what eye he was using, because he could see where people need to be healed, and he used that to heal Baba in many ways, as long as Baba let him.
We'll find out one day. Karen.
Yeah. But just a note on that, taking Elizabeth for a sec. have you, he had such an energy about him. His cane almost was elevated in the air when you held his cane.
Oh my gosh.
Mm,
It was really something.
yeah.
But what I wanted to say was, it's the mind that does the turning. And isn't it, very simplistically, if we see Baba, Baba, Baba everywhere, like Mani's
Mm,
little child book,
right.
Baba is the song, Baba is the singer. And if we keep interpreting everything that we're perceiving as from Baba, it is Baba. It's a manifestation of Baba. It's our path. It's our opportunity. And and we're walking along with Baba. That is the turning the mind, the eyes
Right.
inward through the
Right.
mind, right?
That's
Maybe that's
definitely
just a
the point.
simple way to
That's
do
definitely
it.
the point he keeps harping at these boys at, where he's
Mhm.
trying to create Prem, remember me, think of me, love me. And he says there at the end of that one, that strange one, where I can see very clearly that those of you on the spiritual line, your eyes are red. Had you ever heard that before? He
Yeah,
said, your eyes are red.
he mentions
Uh,
that in God Speaks.
but he says, but you can't see this yourself because you're all absorbed in thinking about Shri all the time. So, like Karen, that's what you'd be talking about. You're absorbed in thinking about him. That's the method he's recommending for turning the mind.
Yeah, I don't get the love part actually, other than
Mm.
just remembering. That's tangible. That's something I can grasp, but
Right.
yeah, I
Isn't it funny?
can't.
He's saying create love,
Yeah, I know
create Prem.
that's been really interesting to me, that it's like creating it out of
Seems
nothing.
impossible. It seems
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe he's trying to sort of get them to agitate themselves, to stir themselves, to make efforts. But it's
When you
definitely
do
create. Yeah.
when
Go
you
ahead.
do art, you're creating something out of nothing. Nothing
Yeah.
was there, and then you manifest your idea. And in a way, I can see that creating, paralleled. You're
Yeah.
out of nothing. You are
Mhm.
creating this connection with God.
That's
Yeah.
interesting because I think, most of our creative ideas come out of a place of nothing. You never know where
Right.
a creative impulse is going to come from because it's everywhere. God's
Yeah.
creativity is everywhere.
And he does
Anybody else?
seem to wanting these boys to sort of agitate themselves
Yeah,
and to
yeah.
stir them. Remember what it's like to be 13. You've got all this energy, and Baba doesn't want them just to sort of vegetate and be passive recipients of this. He wants them to do it yourself.
Mhm.
Mm.
Well, now I'm dipped into wild speculation about the future. It's going to be so different. Any other questions, anybody, or comments?
Well, I wrote it. I just think it's also interesting that when he was writing this, I think pointillism was happening in the
Oh.
fine arts world,
Mhm.
and
Oh.
people were reinterpreting the points of light that they were seeing as what they're not seeing,
Oh.
that idea.
Mhm.
When was pointillism? The 1920s, 19 teens, 20s, was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
20s, 30s. And it
Mm.
was, what they were doing is they were doing dots, and the dots
Yeah.
together would create the image. And it was a
Yeah.
diffused way. If you were up close, you couldn't really tell what the image was, but if you stood back, you could see it. And it was
Yeah.
a type of
Oh.
impressionism. Pissarro is
Yeah.
Camille Pissarro is one of the great pointillists.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I was confusing that, but you're right. It's expressionist, or no, impressionist. The ones that like Monet.
Yeah, they're impressionists, but this was a particular aspect of that. Pissarro could probably be considered an impressionist, but he used the technique of pointillism, which are the dots.
Right.
Thank you.
But what they were doing was saying, if what they were taking science into
Mm.
their creativity and saying, well, if what we're seeing is not, we're seeing like the green leaf, all the other colors are being absorbed except for the green. Is that how it goes? And so that's what we see. anyhow, they were playing with something that is very parallel to this,
Mhm.
I
All right.
think.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
other questions? We're coming close to the end here.
Well,
Just
I'm
scrolling through.
going back to the object that creates the shadow, and people are saying ignorance. What if it wasn't ignorance? What would it be?
Yeah.
All I can come up with is distance. Like the light year thing,
Mhm.
that it takes so long for the light to reach us,
Yeah.
that's darkness that it pierces, right? To get
Mhm.
Is
the
that
light.
distance or is that time? What is it?
Or is it contrariety?
Baba does bring out, let's see, is it here? Yeah, we saw earlier that wherever God is, Pokal or Akash is too, hollowness or empty space. God is everywhere being indivisible, yet Pokal or Akash accompanies him. So
I
the
think
initial,
that's what accounts for the shadow.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just they're companions. Yeah. So the initial situation is this. Beneath the creator point, all is Pokal or hollowness. And the light globe casts a shadow that is the world.
Okay.
Now, what happens onto this Pokal or hollowness? So there's a difference between the shadow and the Pokal, right? Onto this Pokal or hollowness, the image or reflection of the world falls. And this world, it should be reflected as a shadow of the light globe, is the faintest of faint light. So he doesn't give any instrument or mechanism, but he does say that just as God and the Nath and the Pokal always are together, or always wherever God is, there's always the Pokal. Similarly, the light globe, I guess the implication is that it just necessarily casts a shadow. Yeah, so what creates the shadow, he hasn't said.
But there must be something, because you can't, if a light doesn't fall on anything, there's no shadow.
Right.
So it's falling on something, but he hasn't said. It's not, you're right, it's not the hollowness. The hollowness is just where
Yeah.
this shadow image casts
Right.
its image.
Right.
And then the light, based on what he said, the light globe's light lights up that image that was cast, which we see
Right.
as the sun. And of course, get everything backwards because we see it all backwards.
Yeah.
Well, it could be that there is some further mechanism, but Baba just didn't go into the topic in that degree of depth. I mean, look at all that he's explaining to them. There's in the future, when people delve into this more, there's a branch of Sufism called Ishraqi, or illuminationism. And I'm struck by the fact that the very first piece of philosophy you have from Baba in his own handwriting, In God's Hand, has an illuminationist metaphysics: natural light, natural darkness, unnatural light. And Surawardi has all sorts of explanations of how light and darkness come out of each other. I don't imagine he was a perfect master, but I do get the feeling he was probably a great saint. So there could be exploration of this in the future. I'm sure there will be. But that would be one place to go. Surawardi. S-U-H Sura, Hrawardi, Surawardi.
Can you spell that one more time? I'm going to write it down.
Surawardi.
Thank you.
And Marianne has her hand up.
Along this train of thought that we're on right now, what's casting the shadow, just an idea or a thought is, even though Baba didn't go into it and explain it, what if the creator point, or there is a light that is greater than the light globe? So this greater light, when it hits the light globe, would cast a shadow, the shadow of the light
I
globe.
see. I see. That could
So
be
the-
actually,
So
because
the light
Baba does,
globe is-
the
is
light
the
globe
object.
is not the light of God. He actually
Right.
does say that it's a shadow. Light globes are shadows of the true light, or nur. Yeah, actually, that's kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, I like it. So the light
Yeah.
globe itself is the object, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
casts the shadow.
That's
From
casting
which
a
the
shadow.
true light, a word which Baba likes for light in that absolute God's own light is nur, N-U-R, nur. He uses it in this text, but it's a good word for that light. See, our English word light is usable in so many different levels and degrees, but nur means that pure light. Yeah, that's a cool idea, actually. Sort of like,
Is she saying that the light globe is the shadow of the Nur and is itself the object upon which the Nur shines that creates the world that is the shadow?
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So
So in a
shadow-
way, if a light globe is correlated to a wave, well, the crest of the wave has the trough, and the trough would be equivalent to the shadow. Maybe that correlation works.
But the trough was the Pokal, which is where the sun is, which is the reflected image of the world. So
Yeah.
that doesn't
Okay.
quite.
No, that's true. That's true. But both the earth and the sun belong generally to the domain of Pokal or darkness. I know, but the Pokal is associated with the sun specifically.
I would love to see some kind of correlation someday about consciousness with this.
Mm.
Mm.
Baba doesn't really talk about that here. The topic of consciousness doesn't really come up, but we're just only starting to open this book, and like in the future, these things could be brought into alignment with infinite intelligence and God speaks. Those are two natural places, talking about consciousness in various ways. That's true. But all of this seems to happen when consciousness awakens and the universe gets projected.
So I'm wondering, for those folks who have watched the sessions on the recordings, have any questions come up for you about those that you might want to bring up now? Oh, Cheryl's got her hand up. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Oh, yeah, I just had wanted to ask a question before you asked that question, Cassandra. Could you talk a little bit more about, I don't remember where Baba said the light globes come from. Someone suggested that it was the wave. Lindsay did, I believe. But could you just review light globes? Where did they come from?
Baba hasn't really said in this text, another place bring into another textual spot to bring into relation with this is from early messages to the West. People don't really know about this book, but it's got important stuff, and it does talk about the emergence of what sound like light globes from the very beginning. So we'd have to read that through.
Well, without reading it, is there anything you remember that you could say? Because just from the beginning, I've wondered where they came from. I haven't asked that question until now, but now that we're talking so much about them, it just seemed to me, I don't quite understand
where they come
their
from.
function just simply to perhaps create a shadow, as was just suggested, or like, what are they? Aside from shining light that creates a shadow from itself of a world. But how do they emerge and from where?
Yeah, no, Baba hasn't really said very much. He will talk about how when the movement began, that's when you start getting these waves coming into existence. So maybe when we get to that, we could bring that into a relation. He's going to drop this topic of light globes pretty soon. He's going to go back into the wave description of things. And he will say that breaking of energy into 7 divisions happens on the 4th plane. So maybe there's something like there. I don't know. Maybe these light globes come up on the fourth plane. I don't know.
Ward, of a number of sessions ago, you did the trilogy analogies, you know, one being the ocean and one being the one with light and include the light globes, and the other one was knowledge and knowing. I'm sorry, I don't have them side by side, but
Yeah, that's that primary duality of light and darkness, or knowing and ignorance, that trinity. But the light globe would not be the highest on that. You know, it belongs to the domain of the illusory. The light globes are not God himself.
Alan has a question.
So it seems to me that a metaphor is, one should perhaps bear in mind that the saying that the map is not the territory. And when one tries to take the metaphor and go deeply into the metaphor, it's only intended to represent the actuality.
Yeah.
And if you try to match every little piece and extend your vision, it doesn't work, because the part that he's using works as a metaphor, but all the other aspects of it may not fit what he's saying, that because it's a metaphor.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Ward?
No, I think that's true. And Baba is just sketching out basic principles of a whole. This is almost like a whole new spiritual science, you could say. This, and he's giving some of the fundamental principles. I mean, he's actually giving them a hell of a lot, to tell the truth. But you can see that there's much, much more to be worked out.
you know, it actually looks like a wave if you look at it. If you consider that light globe at the top left is like the top of a crest of a wave, and you just almost see the hollow where the sun is. And anyway, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there could be broadly a correlation between, let's say the light globe belongs to the domain of the subtle, and the sun and the world both belong to the domain of the gross, because they do, certainly. We have a gross sun and a gross earth. So that might, broadly speaking, correspond to the pran and the akash side of things, because Baba does correlate pran with the subtle and akash with the gross. So both the sun and the world would be part of the akash or gross side of things, just different aspects of it in a kind of a relationship with each other. Maybe, I don't know, could be.
Well, it's all very exciting, and we have so much more to explore together. I'm really delighted with how wonderfully these things are going. Let's wrap up this recording the way we started, with the Beloved's prayer.
Okay.
So if you want to unmute yourselves and join us for this, please do. Then I'll stop the recording and we can hang out a little while after that. Beloved God,
The God,
help
help us all
to love you
to
more
love you
and
more and more
and more
and more
More,
and
still
till yet more,
Still yet more.
till we become worthy of union with you,
and help
and
us
help
all
us all
to hold
to hold
fast
fast to
Baba's
Baba's
Dhamma
Dhamma
until
till the
very
very end.
Avatar
Avatar
Meher
Meher Baba
Baba
Ki
Ki
Jai.
Ooh,
Right. I
Thank
mean,
you.
Thank you, Ward. Thank you, Cassandra, and everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everybody, did you find this interesting, this stuff? Because I certainly do.
Very.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, fascinating.
But I keep reminding myself that this is an explanation of illusion.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.